Hello, this is Keith. Uh, right now I'm at Pea Ridge Battlefield, uh, being berated by Carolina Wren, who actually came out of the cannon as I was walking around it and is letting me know they would like me to wrap this up as quickly as possible. So I'll get on with it. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Section 5 of the Ozark Highlands Trail, which is I recently completed. I actually recently did it this past winter. I broke it up into two sections this time because of an ankle that was giving me a problem. Rather than carry a heavy pack for an overnight, I did two 10-mile day hikes. It kind of easily lent itself to be broken in half, and so I chose to do that. It goes from Ozone Campground to Fort Douglas, and so I thought I'd take you along on that, show you some of the scenes, and also tell you about something that happened one time.
The best part of any trail is always what's around the next corner. The part you don't know always has the greatest potential, just as the best season is always the next season. It's the transitions and their aha moments that move us forward. Despite years of trudging around the corners of Arkansas trails, the one thing that is yet to be revealed to me is a bear, and this is the Bear State. It earned the nickname while a territory and carried it into statehood. Within 100 years, however, the moniker became only a keepsake of the past, as few bears remain due to all the same reasons most wild things are lost. In my younger years, it was more likely to hear of a Bigfoot sighting than a bear sighting. Much more likely. Decades ago, Arkansas began to right the ship through reintroduction, filling the void with bears from Minnesota and Canada. It worked, and while it's hard to say we are again the Bear State, we are definitely a state with bears. Just apparently none on the trails I hike. My romanticized expectation was to meet one while rounding a corner, with all freezing after making eye contact. It would then bolt into the brush, in the opposite direction, of course, allowing me to gather my wits. With luck, I could watch it retreat over a ridge, giving me a long look and the comfort of knowing that it had left the building. Not totally unrealistic, but also not happening. This experience would have to wait until an afternoon on the shore of Yellowstone Lake. From the time I learned they existed, I have been a public lands groupie. My dream was to work for the Forest Service on a district out west surrounded by public lands with me right in the middle. That journey started in a crowded room. There were about 15 of us, sitting in an assortment of dated and mismatched chairs lining the walls of a large meeting room, or a small conference room. I don't know how the Hepkin Lake Ranger District chose to label it. The walls were covered with maps of places I couldn't wait to see. Lost among the maps was a framed photo of the President of the United States and one of the Forest Service chief, the only other Arkansan in the room. Sitting in the clashing chairs was this year's seasonal crew. I sat among them, a stranger chasing the bliss of full-time employment. At the time, besides attending this orientation, that dream was the only thing we all had in common. I sat quietly, not knowing an aha moment was coming my way. The traditional icebreaker of going around the room and introducing yourself revealed a few commonalities I didn't know existed, but also one glaring divergence. While I was showing up for my first season and hoping to ride a wave of personal optimism into a dream job, I sat surrounded by those who introduced themselves as, "My name is so-and-so, and this is my 5th season," or "This is my 8th season." A couple were in double digits, and they were all just like me, paying their dues and looking for an opportunity. As the meeting continued, that dream job I sought became more distant, and my optimism was having trouble bridging this widening gap. While I wasn't naive enough to think that by simply showing up I would find fruit ready to pick, I didn't think the line would be so long. So, aha. This career move was looking to be long on the move part and short on the career part. The orientation continued with speakers touching on chain of command, expectations, and payroll for those who weren't volunteers, which apparently was everyone but me. We spent a lot of time talking about working in grizzly country. It was a big safety issue, right up there with chainsaws. There were definitely plenty of grizzly around West Yellowstone, enough that I should probably revise my bear encounter fantasy. Well, if this is not to be the year of the job, then maybe it could be at least the year of the bear. Over the summer, I learned that another Archie was working on a trail crew deep in Yellowstone. We were both volunteers with the Student Conservation Association and were assigned to the area a year after the big fires. In my case, to tell the story, and in his case, to replace burned bridges on the thoroughfare trail of the park. I decided to hike into the crew's camp for an interview and maybe write a story for a hometown paper hundreds of miles away. A tall order for a guy with no electricity and who carried around a pawn shop typewriter in a zippered bag. Their camp was 10 miles in on a level trail along the eastern shore of Yellowstone Lake. The plan was to hike to the work camp, stay overnight, and be on my way the next day. The local ranger station was agreeable. A couple of hours into the hike, I met a backcountry ranger with an assistant who clearly showed the joy of her first season in the backcountry of Yellowstone. She never said anything, but spent her time gazing at distant peaks and their reflections on the water, with a "I can't believe I'm here" look on her face. The other, more senior ranger stuck to the business at hand. He let me know the trail crew moved 4 miles further in, and getting there by dark would be a challenge. He gave me a permit for a campsite near the crew's original camp, commenting, "The extra mileage may be too much for me with that big pack." He said pack. I heard belly. He let me know nearby campsites X and Y were closed due to grizzly activity. After that remark about my conditioning, he and the wide-eyed seasonal clucked to their horses and headed down the trail ahead of me and disappeared into some pines. I followed and in time arrived at my designated site, a horseman's camp at Trapper Creek, buried in overhanging willows. It looked dark and like it held surprises. I could get those last 4 miles before dark, I told myself, especially since he said I couldn't. A couple of hours later, I was sitting at the camp among a group of volunteers from around the country. I was tired, but I wasn't sitting alone in the willows. The next morning, I did my interview with the high schooler from West Fork, snapped a few black and white photos, and stuffed my camera into the pack. The plan was to again camp at Trapper Creek and finish the hike the following day. When I got to camp, it didn't look any more inviting than it did before, and had a late-night visitor vibe. I wanted to see a bear, but not just outside the tent. I kept going, breaking the rule as you're supposed to be where you're signed, but I didn't feel good about it. I remembered a boat-in campsite a couple of more miles down the trail on the shore of the lake. Doubtful anyone would be there, and you can see in every direction. That sounded so much better. The trail was easy, so your mind takes on other pursuits. I ran through the scenario of meeting a bear on the trail. The fantasized version of a bear encounter I carried for so long didn't seem relevant in this new landscape. I wondered how easily I could shed this pack for a retreat, oversized as it was. With its straps, belts, and clips, it's designed to grab you and not let go. So many steps at a moment of crisis. It wasn't long into this expansive trail that I was able to test my new expectation. Emerging from a small stand of lodgepole was a shadow, which became a shape, which became a creature. I swiveled my head like a meerkat, trying to determine what was sharing the trail with me. On all fours, a hump, smaller ears, and even at this distance, I could see the front claw slap the ground with each step towards me. Time to give up the trail. My pack, which I spent so much time fretting about, lay at my feet. I don't remember it being a struggle. I don't even remember it happening. It was just there, laying in the dust of this well-used trail. I began to sidestep off the trail to a small pine, with a foothold about 4 feet off the ground, high enough for comfort, not for protection. Not wanting to be a surprise, I yelled at the bear. At every shout, the bear would stop, raise his head, look confused, and continue my way. Though now only 50 yards away, he never saw me. The wind rolled off Yellowstone Lake, crossing the trail and taking my scent to the sage and off the field of play. I had one foot in the fork of the tree when the bear reached my bag, which literally stopped him in his tracks. Now its nose had something to work with. The smell of camp smoke and sweaty humans sent him off the trail, down to the lake and trotting along the shore away from me. After 100 yards, he popped back onto the trail and rose on his feet to look back at the stinky blue bag which blocked its way. By this time, I was digging through the bag for the camera. Shooting quickly, I was able to get one grossly overexposed black and white photo of what a birder would call a lifer. He quickly dropped to all fours and loped away towards the willow-covered campsite. The photo was so blown out that when I tried to show it off, I had to describe the entire scene as little was recognizable, and ultimately the only reaction I would get was, "If you say so." I made my way to the lakeside campsite. It was empty like I had hoped, and the tent fit nicely next to the lake. With the lake on one side and the bear moving away on the other, I didn't worry too much about an evening visit, so I had a chance to lay in the bag on the shore of this huge lake with my own "I can't believe I'm here" look on my face. Since that day, I've been lucky enough to run into bears of many colors: black, brown, blonde, and grizzled. Even helped capture and handle a grizzly, which oddly created an uneasy kinship to those big-eyed ETs alien abduction victims are always talking about. The process was thorough, intrusive, and I assume worthy of a repressed memory or two. My dream job was not to be on this particular westward expansion. That would have to wait. The summer transitioned to fall, the snow fell, and the bears withdrew into the earth. I retreated south to find bare ground, counting on that upcoming next corner and next season.